July 12th. It's 6 p.m. Will you all join me in the invocation being offered by Pastor Keith Hatch, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance being led by Sergeant of Arms Chip Nelson of American Legion Post 202.
Join me in prayer. Dear Lord, most gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, and we come before your throne, and we ask for guidance and wisdom. Father, as we make decisions about our community, Father, give us that wisdom that we might protect those that live in this community, serve those that live in this community, and doing everything in our power that you've given to us to glorify you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. If you're covered, if you could uncover across your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Mr. Nelson, would you like to call roll, please?
Mayor Lake,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hart,
Here.
Councilman Brown, Councilman Bobby Brown,
Here.
Councilman Tony Brown,
Present.
Councilwoman Kelly.
Present.
You have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Are there any public comment cards?
I do have one, Mr. Keith Hatch.
All right. Would you like to come to the podium, Mr. Hatch?
Good evening. Madam Mayor, distinguished council members, city manager, and legal counsel. I come here this afternoon or evening somewhat with heavy heart and concerned heart. I come here troubled over the food truck. Let me begin by saying I am not against food trucks. The event that was held last June, or say last month, was an excellent event. I am concerned, though, and I want to begin by saying, since we began our business here in Keystone Heights, we have supported the community through personal actions, civic organizations, and even church functions. Now, as a business owner here in the city, we are working to hold community social events on our property that we pay taxes on. We place picnic tables on the property so that people, as they walk, can stop under the shade trees and have lunch or rest, such as Ms. Virginia, who lives over in the properties behind us and walks from her home to the general store. She stops there to rest. Claus shows up in November through about December 24th to bring joy to the children on the property. He also brings smiles to the faces of the families. And we've served over 7 families with clothes, food, and toys last year. We've opened up our property to Twisted Oaks Animal Rescue. We've also held a 3-night revival held by Center Cross Ministries with over 80 to 110 participants there. I'm sharing all this to say this. HRS, Hatch Realty Services, has a heart for the community. And we are trying to provide another opportunity to bring the community together with a food truck Friday night once a month, a time to bring people into the city, sit down and build relationships over a burger, taco, rib, or hot dog, with acoustic music being played in the background without alcohol. But since we have established the business in October of 2020, we've approached this council, might say several times, with a consistent answer of no. My question is, well, no, but you can do it if HRS pays the vendor. Well, my question is, what does payment have to do with parking, traffic, noise, or commercial zoning, or property size? If I can pay for the vendor and have the event, why can't the vendor have food and ask for payment? We had a grand opening in November that Hatch Realty Services paid for so that they could serve the community out of a food truck, a taco food truck. We had a Santa night with kids with hot dogs that Hatch Realty Services paid for the vendor to serve hot dogs for free to the community. We had a 4th of July celebration on our property where Hatch Realty Services paid for the vendor to provide hot dogs on the 4th of July. January 2021, we attempted to amend the ordinance. I think it's section 1152. The first reading of the amendment was a 4-1 vote. The second reading and the vote, since there was a council person missing and a member changed their vote from the first vote, was 2-2. Being a baseball fan, I always thought tie went to runner. But I guess in government, it goes to the government. Then I was rather surprised at the June council meeting, when I walked in here and heard that the city council, the city was going to have a food truck event on a similar sized property as far as where the trucks were going to be, as we have right next to our property. But instead of having one food truck, you had 4 food trucks out there. So I'm very concerned about what this presents to me as a business owner. It doesn't seem like it's a fair practice when I can put on and support the same event on my property, promote the city with traffic, foot traffic, outside of the busy times of work and business, and have a community event that will pull the community together. Today, I would ask and request that the city council take another look at that food truck amendment and revise it so that business owners are not discriminated against. That's all my comment.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation by Impact Play. And Ms. Gabby, I think you're here in the nick of time.
Oh, goodness gracious. This is my first time out here, so I'm apologizing.
Welcome to the city of Keystone Heights.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here, and I'm so excited that I get to present to you what our organization is doing, and through your partnership can continue to do. So again, my name is Gabrielle Gunn, and I am the executive director for Impact Clay. We are an organization, a nonprofit organization that was first created in last year, January 2020, right before the pandemic hit. This has been a long time in the making, as we have adopted and adapted a model from Lake County down south. And with their support, we were able to launch this organization that really tailors to Clay County and all that we have to offer. Do I do the clicker, or does somebody else do the clicker? No, if you just say next slide. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so I'm also considered the project facilitator, and you can see in the middle that I am the link between the Executive Roundtable, the Project Advisory Council, and the Safety Net Alliance. That Safety Net Alliance includes the Keystone Safety Net Alliance along with the Clay Safety Net Alliance. And with that, there is no hierarchy. We are all working and interconnected within each other. It's just that I provide the link between all of them and make sure that there is a continued collaboration based off of our mission, inspiring collaboration that drives positive change. Next slide. So the Safety Net Alliance is part of the role in being able to present projects through Impact Clay. So Impact Clay can take up to 5 projects at one time because it's only one I'm the one person that runs it all. I run the whole show. And so with that, projects are, I'll give you examples of projects that we are currently working on and tend to work on in the future. But without the Safety Net Alliance and the support of the Safety Net Alliance from the Keystone and Clay, we wouldn't be able to make sure that these projects are a success. So we really need the buy-in from the Keystone Safety Net Alliance and the Clay Safety Net Alliance in order to create ad hoc groups that make these projects successful. And so to recap, I actually gave a presentation last year to the Keystone Safety Net Alliance before the pandemic hit, and it was just a brief overview of what Impact Clay could do. And because of the pandemic, our timeline was moved up exponentially because the first project that was submitted was the Food for Clay project, which Mission of the Dirt Road and Keystone Safety Net Alliance was a huge partner in making that super successful. And so that is just one example of how the Safety Net Alliance can play a vital role in the projects. So we want the projects to bubble up from the Safety Net Alliance. They're the people that are in the day-to-day operations of the needs of the people. If you are not aware of the Safety Net Alliance, it is made up a majority of nonprofits, along with other businesses and organizations that come together to meet the various needs on a monthly basis. Next slide, please. Then we have the Project Advisory Council. It's comprised of executives serving under the Executive Roundtable, and they meet on a monthly basis. So we review projects. This meeting is 2 hours each month. It's currently being held at the Town of Orange Park, and it might be changed soon, but that's neither here nor there. At these meetings, we review projects. We make sure that we're not duplicating resources or services. So we want to make sure that when we're taking on a project, we're not duplicating something that's already available within the county. If it is, we're going to get that project to partner with an organization that is already meeting the need elsewhere. If not, we're going to make sure all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, that, every person that is on that council is aware of what this project is that it will offer to its residents. Next slide. So this is the council. This is what the council is comprised of. We want to make sure that we're hitting high-level stakeholders within the county. And these individuals were designated by an executive roundtable member, which I will get to in the next 2 slides. So as you can see that Mary Abbott from Keystone Heights actually sits on that council. She meets with us on a monthly basis and gives input, makes sure that the projects are staying in line with what we have to offer. And once it's pushed up the chain and then pushed back down the chain after approval, they are sharing these projects, making sure that the individuals that need the specific resources or services that the projects have to offer are getting those needs. You'll also see that the Keystone Safety Net Alliance also has a seat on that Project Advisory Council, and Carrie Morford has been instrumental in making these projects successful. She also has just recently stepped up to be the secretary of the council to keep meeting minutes, which is huge because without that person, we wouldn't be able to redistribute out that information. But as you can see from these different individuals, we're trying to reach all the municipalities along with the county as a whole. Next slide, please. So what does the Executive Roundtable do? The Executive Roundtable meets on a quarterly basis, and at those meetings, they meet for 1 hour. They review projects, they approve the projects, and then we make sure that the project is endorsed and gets the exposure to be successful. And we gauge the projects on being successful by setting goals at the very beginning. I keep a project for 1 year from start to finish. They have 1 year with me to facilitate meetings, provide linkages, make people play in the same sandbox, because not a lot of people want to play together. They don't want to collaborate, and that is all about what Impact Clay is trying to do. We want to inspire the collaboration between organizations that can partner together to make an exponential change to each individual within Clay. The primary role, along with endorsing, is monitoring and evaluating the progress, so they get updated on a monthly basis and are able to push out those projects out to their resources to make sure that they are successful. Next slide, please. So as you can see on this executive roundtable, we have Lynn Rakowski, and she is the only representative from Keystone Heights. And it's very instrumental that we have Keystone on board with what we're doing, because our projects that we take on are not just specific to one demographic, to one area of Clay. It's reaching the most people that it can at one given time. There are very big leaders that sit on this table that meet on a quarterly basis, and they know what we're doing. They stay up to date. They see the success of the project, and if there's ever a need, I know who I need to contact in order to get that need met. And I tell all of my projects this: if I don't know what the need is, I can't make it happen. If I don't know somebody, that somebody knows somebody. So these projects are at 100% right now. Next slide, please. So as I said before, the Food for Clay project was started due to the pandemic. The county reached out to us and asked us to help facilitate volunteers on a widespread across Clay County. That included the volunteers that distributed almost 1 million meals during the pandemic. So the food that was gotten from the state was redistributed due to the efforts of the Food for Clay project. I've been asked by my board to make sure I'm using the same vocabulary throughout all my presentations. So gray sky times would be pandemic, hurricane, natural disaster, anything like that. Blue sky times would be during the day-to-day, right now. With the county purchased $150,000 worth of food. They needed it out of the warehouse at Clay County Fairgrounds. And so they called Impact Clay, and we were able to take it to the warehouse to Challenge Enterprise in celebration of Orange Park, because they are the champions for this specific project. And we had multiple organizations, which included Keystone Safety Net Alliance and Mission of the Dirt Road. They were able to help package those meals and take them to the different food pantries, organizations that needed it. So this is an ongoing project. This Food for Clay is very instrumental, as it's able to provide food to pantries that are low in need. So it's a Challenge Enterprise in Green Cove Springs has an abundance of food, of cold storage for food. And so we're able to use those refrigerators if there's a need from a food bank, and be able to house that until it can be redistributed. So that's one example. The next project that we are currently working on, next slide please, is 100 Plus Women Who Care. So this group meets on a quarterly basis, and it was just launched in April. The goal for that meeting was to have 50 women in attendance at that first meeting, and we far surpassed that goal of 112 women. We had 3 organizations present, and the nonprofit, let me back up. This is tailored only to nonprofits throughout Clay. So this project has members, and those members are able to nominate organizations that can receive the funds and will give a presentation. Then they're selected a month before the meeting, and the 3 organizations selected are able to present to a widespread group of women. At that meeting, the funds collected from that night are split between 50%, 30%, and 20%. And those 3 organizations walk away with the amount divided. So as of right now, we have 124 members for the next for the meeting that's set for July. So that was huge. It's very quick. We have found that a lot of people, they want to give, but they don't know who to give it to. And so this not only gets exposure to what these organizations do, but it also gives them funding. Next slide, please. Mercy Auto Charitable Foundation. It was brought to us last year, and it is able to provide vehicles at a low-cost rate, a reasonable rate, for individuals that need help getting self-sustainable. They have an abundance of partnerships that include different organizations here from Keystone, and it just shows that we really are trying to get the buy-in from all the municipalities here in Clay. So to date, there's 30 plus vehicles that have been redistributed in 1 year, along with a total value of around $75,000, which is huge. And this project hasn't been on its feet for too long. Next slide.
And I don't mean to interject, but I think at least 2 of those recipients live here in Keystone Heights. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And so with that project, the Mercy Auto, if you go back a slide, the way Mercy Auto works, the charitable foundation, they have a charitable foundation, and then they have an auto repair side that's able to help fund the charitable foundation part. Anyone is able to donate their vehicle to the charity to be fixed on, to get it flipped, to be presented to a client. That client has been vetted through a partner organization, which Mission of the Dirt Road is a partner organization. And so through those applications, they are able to screen those individuals and get them to the top of the list. And so this organization makes sure that the vehicle is going to the right recipient that is in need of the specific vehicle at the time. Next slide, please. The next project is Bridging Science Gaps, the Science Summer Camp. This project just started July 6th, and it will end on, the program started July 6th and runs until the 22nd. And as you can see, it is serving 150 rising fifth graders at 5 different schools. We were able to reach 75 students specifically in Keystone through this camp to make sure that those gaps are being filled because of COVID. And so this project was run through this past year through one school to see how it was going to work. And across the board, there was the one class that went through it 100% improved and passed based off of the testing. And so this is filling the gaps for individuals that aren't getting what they need. They may have not been able to succeed in this portion of school because they didn't have a laptop, or they didn't have that one-on-one divided attention. They weren't in the classroom because of COVID. And so this is just the beginning of a project that they want to continue each and every summer. And so I don't have statistics for that yet, but I hope to share that with our executive roundtable in August. Then we have Clay Pass. It's our coordinated medical care program. And with this, it has received the partnership from the 3 local hospitals within Clay. And because of this project receiving the exposure, we were able to get the Way Free Medical Clinic, who submitted the project, to have a representative sit on their board to make sure, but to inspire the collaboration through the individuals. And this is very instrumental in trying to integrate between the CHIP program here in Clay County. There has been talks and partnerships of maybe bringing another satellite location to Keystone, but that is still in the works. But right now, they have one location, and it's in Green Cove Springs. This is a free medical clinic to anyone in Clay County that is uninsured. And so they can go to this facility. They were also donated a free building off of College, and are going to have their second satellite location in hopes of also having a free dental program in the near future. So that is another project that we're working on. Next slide. So those are my 5 active projects that I'm working on. Current projects in the pipeline include Operation Barnabas. Operation Barnabas really wants to bridge the gap and get collaboration between the veteran organizations here in Clay County. Everyone has their own little thing going on. They have their own baby. They want to stick to what they're doing. But if we all came together and collaborated on a higher level, we would be able to reach so many more individuals within Clay County, because everyone has something else to offer, and bringing that together is the goal through this project, is specifically for the veterans. And so this project was approved by our Project Advisory Council earlier this month, and will be presented at our executive roundtable in August. And that would also include partnerships here in Keystone. there are different organizations that have jumped on board to hopefully inspire something that could make a positive effect in our county. 2 other projects that are coming down the pipeline is the College Drive Initiative and the Countywide Work Project. I can't speak too much on either one of them, but those are the last of the 2 projects that I'm currently working on. Next slide, please. Here's my contact information. This is, you can get more information about our different projects that we're working on, the structure that we have, and really the point of today's meeting is to bring awareness to what Impact Clay is trying to do and to show the projects that we currently have are making a change here in our county. You each have a pamphlet that gives you a little bit more information about each project, along with the structure of what Impact Clay does and tries to strive to do within our county. Any questions?
Any quick questions from council? No? I want to thank Mary for attending on our behalf, and Lynn. Maybe every quarter after you've had your meeting, you can report back to us kind of where they're at and what progress they're making on this project.
Sure. No, we have worked with Impact Clay. One of the projects that we assisted, that Keystone Heights specifically assisted with through Carrie Morford, was feeding at the beach. And so those are the projects we're really utilizing an assistant role and partnering, reaching out when need be for what the city can offer as far as facilities and things of that nature. And through what we were able to do through Impact Clay and through the Mission on the Dirt Road, we were able to get our pavilion renovated to be able to serve better, serve more.
No, it's fantastic, and I'm excited about the projects you guys have embarked on. I'm sure
Yes.
Operation Barnabas is going to be a great success too.
Yes.
Most people are really willing to collaborate when you show them, or give them a platform to do that.
Exactly.
I appreciate that. So thank you guys for participating, Lynn and Mary. I appreciate that. And of course, I'm on the Keystone Safety Net side, so I'm aware. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, so we're down to agenda item 3, public hearings. We'll take up ordinance 2021-590, beach rules. Is there a motion to read by short title?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. Mr.
Ord-
Commando.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Ordinance 2021-590, an ordinance of the City of Keystone Heights, Florida, amending Chapter 9, General Regulations, Article 3, City Recreational Parks to amend regulations related to the pavilion, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. I'll open a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this proposed ordinance? This is the second reading. Seeing none, bring it back to council. What is the pleasure of the council? Is there a motion to pass the beach rules?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. We have a second ordinance, 2021-591, fiscal year ending 2020-2021 budget amendment. Is there a motion to read by short title?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. Mr. Commando.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Ordinance 2021-591, an ordinance for the purpose of amending the final budget for the City of Keystone Heights, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Do I need a hearing for this one? I don't think so. This is just a budget amendment, right? Okay. Open a public hearing. Anyone wish to speak on the budget amendment, the proposed change to our budget? Seeing none, bring it back to council. Ms. Rakowski, do you want to explain?
Madam Mayor, these were, the budget amendments was provided in your packet, and council has seen them, most of them once. I'll be more than happy to either go line by line or answer any questions. It's strictly your option.
Is there a preference for council? Have you had a chance to review the packet? Is everyone comfortable with what you've seen in the packet? Okay. So what's the pleasure of the council? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. We're on to agenda item 4, city events. Ms. Rakowski?
I have the first one. I've had individual conversations with each member of council about the possibility of the city taking on some events. We do have some staff in place that's creative thinking, and I'm very excited with the direction that we can possibly go. In doing that, I've done some research with other municipalities, and one specific with Orange Park, as they host a lot of large events. And I was intrigued by their budget when I requested what their budget looked like as we move forward in the city putting on events, and then what the city funds as far as events go. That the events put on by both Green Cove Springs and Orange Park are self-funded. They don't take money out of the general fund or any of their budgets whatsoever. They bring in revenue through sponsors and vendor fees, and then that revenue goes out into putting on the budget for the next year. With that being said, I say that Orange Park's event budget is $120,000 a year, and that's all self-funded. That does not come out of any of the tax base. One of the differences between us, Orange Park, and Green Cove Springs is that they have their own police force. So in moving forward, I strongly encourage that we do fund health and safety, because we do not have our police force, so that comes out of a different budget with those municipalities. However, all of their events that's put on through the cities are self-funded. That does not come out of our tax revenue. Now, I say all this to say that I would like to explore the options of putting on some farmers markets and things of that nature with council's blessing within our city. As we start coming up with ideas and how this is structured, I'll bring those events to you. But our plan is to keep them self-funded as well, as we don't want to put that burden on the taxpayers in addition to the services offered and being able to maintain our parks and things that the government should be offering. And so with that being said, I leave that's the information that I've been able to gather.
Excellent. I look forward to it. I think we should explore that and maybe more. Any other council comments for Ms. Rakowski? Excellent.
I think what you're asking is for our support in continuing to research this. Is that your ask?
I'm looking for council's support, not necessarily in a motion, but support to move forward with hosting our own events.
You're going to bring those ideas forward first, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I don't want to put the effort in if council is not in favor of the idea.
I think it's a
With
good
the
idea.
understanding that all of our events will be self-sufficient.
Let's
I think it's a
Go
good
for it.
idea.
Mr. Browns?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right. On to item B, 2021 Halloween. Do you want to bring, Ms. Barber, do you want to come forward?
Did you all get your application that I turned in?
Yes, ma'am.
So as you know, there's been a lot of complaints over the last several years that we moved Boo on the Boulevard to behind City Hall. It's just too crammed. It was a great idea at the time, and it still is, but I was thinking that if we moved it to the dog park, there would be a lot more room. There would be a lot more parking. Hitchcock's will let us park there, Revere Tire. There's a lot of parking behind Revere Tire. I just think it's a good idea to move it, and if it doesn't work, then we'll move it back. But I think it's something we should try. There's lights, there's 2 bathrooms. I'll get 2 more bathrooms because that's basically what we have here is 4 bathrooms. We could get more if you think, but usually 5,000 or 6,000 people, that's a lot. And then I wanted to always get your opinion on it. It's sponsored by Lions Club, but kind of ran by KLRBA. So when we ask these businesses, or just vendors for an example, to pay a fee of $25, let's just pretend 25, but yet the requirement is to bring $250 worth of candy because that's what it takes to if you give one piece each, that's about how much it costs to bring enough candy to survive at least 2 hours. So because of COVID and everybody not being able to have all these events until this year, I was going to not ask for any money from the vendors and kind of do what Lynn was talking about and getting some sponsors to help fund the candy with money that I'm going to be asking you guys for on the 26th.
Okay, so I'm in favor of the event location change. I'm not so much in favor of asking for candy money, because it doesn't have anything to do with public safety. But that's just me.
Yeah.
The money that you're asking, will be asking for, that's gonna be for the law enforcement, right?
Well, sort of, but not really. What I asked for is money for the haunted house, for the bands to pay for that, the candy. What I probably didn't say it right, but me asking businesses, you know, to be in a magazine or something, is that's what I was asking for money for the candy. And yes, the money you give me each year does help buy some candy, but even like our KLRBA, you know, donates money to that too. There's a lot of candy to be held out, and it's hard to expect these businesses that just made it through COVID to spend $250, and it's hard enough to even get them to come out anymore because it's not on the, you know, boulevard. Before, they could just put their table out and represent their business like that. So some of the money that would come from you would be for bathrooms, the band, we always have a band, a couple generators for lights, and that is, to me, public safety. But
My concern though, even with moving the location, is you take it out of the CRA, right?
Yeah, that's right. We
So
can't,
if you're taking the event to Sunrise, you're taking it out of the district that's paying for it.
yeah,
gotcha.
I didn't even think about that.
We could not fund it out of the CRA, so if it was at the dog park of any nature, even the safety aspect of it, we ran into this with the parade last year. It would not be out of the agency's funding. It would have to come out of general fund.
could we do it out of general fund? It is for the community. I know it's not right here, but, and then before you answer that, the police, I did not answer that, I'm sorry, Tony. So I'm working with Michelle Cook, actually Rhonda Jett, who works with Michelle Cook, about getting permission for Bradford County Police to be the security. They've offered the last several years. That's always been kind of poo-pooed, if you will. But the money that we raise, or some of it from you, is costing us $600. They're charging us $30 an officer plus an admin fee, and the majority of the time, they either call and say they can't come, they can't find enough people to do it, or they send PAs, if that's what you call it, PSA, who don't even have arresting power. I mean, what is the point of paying them the same thing you pay an officer if they can't arrest anybody?
Well, me personally, I'm not gonna get involved in that conversation between different deputy offices. That's totally out of our.
I thought I had to ask permission as well.
I've had, and I apologize, I've had conversations with Sheriff Cook about this on Friday, just because with us holding our own events and what that's gonna cost. And with Ms. Franklin's email, the conversation that I've had directly with Sheriff Cook was that all requests for any officers will have to come through Clay County. And that if for whatever reason they are not capable of servicing that or fulfilling that request, then it's up to the agency, it would up to Sheriff Cook to reach out to partnering or neighboring areas to offer those services. But that has to be done through an understanding between the departments, and that's something that we cannot be done. Like, I cannot ask for help from Bradford County. It has to be under a mutual aid from sheriff's office to sheriff's office. So that request regardless would have to come from Sheriff Cook.
And so we would take whoever they sent.
And so it would be up to her to decide if she could man that or pay Bradford County to man that. So I don't know that the fees would change, even though they would offer it free for an event specifically, but it would still have to be administrated through the sheriff's office.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Appreciate it.
I'm a little concerned about the candy aspect of it. I'm sure there's some taxpayers in the city that probably wouldn't think that was the greatest idea in the world. I would be in favor, though, at budget time, to come up with a dollar amount to defray the cost of the police protection, because I think that is a function of government. and I think that's important. So that's the way I would cast it, and we've already made the point, it can't come out of CRA, it'll just have to come out of the general fund. We'll be having budgeting discussions next month, basically, so.
Any other comments?
Nope.
So, for tonight's purpose, we're approving the event application as presented. So, do we want to ask her to come back to us with an amended event application? Because it includes the money for the candy.
Would you be amenable to just deleting that request for now and leaving the rest as is?
Right now, I'm getting the flavor that we don't want to make a decision about the candy at this time.
Okay.
Is that what I'm hearing from?
With that change, I would move approval of it.
You would what?
I would move approval of your application.
So take the
With
candy.
that change.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to item C, food truck events. Mr. Hodges, would you like to come up to the podium? Welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank y'all for allowing us to do the last food truck event we did. It was a great success, even in the rain. We had some good trucks. A lot of good people came out and enjoyed themselves. And for the first time in a long time, I seen nothing negative on Keystone word of mouth. I don't know about y'all, but that speaks volumes in this
It does
county.
speak volumes. Thank you.
We've got a list of dates here. We want to do a few more events. One will be 7/23, one of 8/20, one of 9/17, and one of 10/22. Basically the same format as we used last time. Bring in the trucks. We'd like to include some vendors to come in, weather permitting, and make it something that our community can be proud of, and a place for everybody to kind of get together and see this beautiful park we've got down here.
Ms. Bukowski?
Madam Mayor, if I may, so I attended the last food truck event and was there almost start to finish with my boys. Even through the rain, we had about 500 individuals that attended. It was wonderful because where they set up didn't affect any parking. We had people that were parking across the street at the tennis courts and at the natural park. They were able to walk through downtown. The one request that we had, unfortunately, was music, and because of the weather, we were not able to provide that. I have walked with Mr. Hodges around the area, so if he's looking at expanding to vendors on where we would place them, probably behind City Hall, so it becomes like a 4th of July aspect with a band or a DJ down in the beach area, but I'll tell you, it was a sight to be seen. People coming down, enjoying the beach, enjoying the picnic tables after the rain let off. It was very, very cool. And so if you didn't get a chance to come out to the last one, if this event's passed, I strongly encourage you to come out to the next one.
And even when it rains, I encourage you to put on your rain boots.
We don't have
Come down
them.
and splash in the puddles. Because that's what
Support locals, what we say.
yeah.
Could you do the dates one more time?
Yes, sir. 7/23, 8/20, 9/17, and 10/22.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the food truck event application?
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll see you in July.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Reads Across America, I don't believe there's anybody here representing Reads Across America. The application is in the book. This is an annual application of an event that happens in our cemetery. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We have minutes from June, and we have financials and payables from May. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you.
I
Is there a
second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Under old business, we have the request for right-of-way. Ms. Bukowski, did you want to pick that up?
So we've had this on the agenda for the past 3 months. I just wanted to inform you that through Councilman Tony Brown and myself, Councilman Tony Brown has spoke to the property owners that abutted the right-of-way that we had a request to vacate. At this time, it's staff recommendation for council just to leave it as is and not choose to move forward to vacate the right-of-way.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the council? Are you gonna take staff's recommendation?
Yeah, I don't see anything is going to be gained by the property owners by vacating and splitting the property 50-50. It's just gonna end up with more private property. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Any other council comments? You look like you wanna speak, Mr. Brown.
I always like to talk. I would just say we drop it because, talking to the other individual, he doesn't wish to pursue it any further.
Okay, so, you don't need a motion from us, Mr. Crandall, we can just drop it? Thank you. Moving on. Budget meeting, budget and committee reports. We're gonna have some for you out of budget and finance in the next couple of weeks, is that correct, Ms. Wachowski?
So we do have a workshop, a CRA and a council combined workshop to talk about next year's budget. That'll be on the 26th at 4 o'clock. That's a Monday. Everybody should have received their invitation. Outside of that, the budget committee met just to review the changes that you've previously passed.
Excellent. And growth management?
The committee will be meeting next week to take up one matter in sort of an advisory position, and that'll be noticed as a regular meeting.
Okay. Mr. Kirkland, Keystone Heights Airport. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Earthworks completed Phase 3 of the apron rehabilitation project. As a result of that, we'll be moving our tenants back into their respective hangars. The last phase of this project is to add 9 aircraft tie-down areas to the ramp area outside of the new FBO, and this is expected to be completed by the end of July. Mrs. Hitt attended the Keystone Lake Region Business Association Business Expo that was held June 17th, I believe, at the RV park. And she was there showcasing the airport as well as the firm. And what we hoped was this event allowed those new residents and those in the RV park to learn more about the Keystone Airport and the firm. On June the 26th, we hosted an Aerobatic Fun Day for pilots who had not been able to compete this past year. This typically was an annual event of aerobatic pilots that come to the airport and utilize the aerobatic box that we have there. And there were about 50 pilots, and they're ready to schedule an event again for this fall. So we look forward to having them back. On June the 29th, Maria met with the Nitro Rally event coordinators along with Bradford and Clay County EOC directors. They were there to discuss in greater detail the logistics of the upcoming race in December. They will continue to meet on a monthly basis to refine the overall plan for traffic safety and security. It's going to be a big event, and so glad to see the planning that's going on ahead of time. Kimberly Morgan with the Clay County Board of Tourism will be reaching out later this month to plan an event which will allow local businesses to not only learn about our upcoming events and the impacts those events will make to the business community, but also to assist local merchants with programs within the county to help them prepare and to be successful. Also on June 29th, a film crew with the Lifetime Channel came out to capture footage of the Civil Air Patrol cadets to help promote their series, Military Makeover. The cadets were at Camp Blanding all week for their annual encampment training. The airport has been hosting the Civil Air Patrol for the past 10 years. The airport board will be scheduling our long-awaited new FBO grand opening tomorrow night at the board meeting. Our goal is to find a date in October that will accommodate both Bradford and Clay County dignitaries as well as FDOT representatives. So stay tuned. We'll get that date to you as soon as that is set. Our new fiscal clerk, Lori Butcher, started with the airport on June the 15th. She was able to train with Lonnie, who we sadly said goodbye to on June the 30th, but we're happy for her retirement. She did get to train with Lonnie for a couple of weeks, and she's catching on quick. We're happy to have her on the airport team. Any questions?
Seeing none, thank you for the report.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ms. Rakowski, planning and zoning, anything?
I do have an application was submitted from Roberts Development regarding the 37 acres over there off of Fox Run. The growth management will be talking about that next Wednesday at 9 a.m. We're going to invite planning and zoning to attend just for observation educational purposes. I have been working behind the scenes with DMRP in hopes that their contract will be approved here in just a couple of minutes, and they will be assisting in that review, and we plan on bringing that in front of planning and zoning within the next couple of weeks.
Excellent. Be exciting to hear. All right, the Heritage Commission.
Really nothing new. They are looking at doing a house walk at Christmas time. That's in the development stage right now.
Oh, and that video by Mr. Brandon will be timely matched, don't you think?
I agree.
Yeah. Under new business, Ms. Rakowski, do you want to pick up the DRMPGES contract?
Yes, in your packets, you received a copy of the contract. This has been vetted through Mr. Commando as well as DMRP. We're excited to move forward with this relationship with DMRP, and so upon council's approval.
Were there any questions of the contract?
I make a motion, we accept the contract.
I'll second.
Excellent. Thank you, glad it's volunteered this time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. Welcome aboard, Mr. Rashad.
We do have a get-to-know-you meeting scheduled for next week. We'll be introducing staff with staff and who we'll be working with and who my go-to people are as we have projects coming.
Fast and Furious, right?
Absolutely. Hit the ground running.
Great, welcome aboard. Our next item under new business is sheer construction beach design, which we got right here in our hot little hands. Welcome, we're glad to see you again.
Yes. All right, so what you have in front of you is preliminary drawings for the requested work, 4 items, one of which would be refurbishing the existing steel pavilion out there, kind of behind the trees to our left. We would be adding a concrete slab around the existing structure, repainting the steel and painting the roof panels. The second being adding a restroom to the existing pavilion. The third would be demolishing the rotting wood platform out there and constructing a new concrete slab with a new covered canopy for a band shell. And then the fourth would be adding a storage onto the back of your existing restroom building and modifying it to make it ADA accessible. Now, these are, as I said, preliminary. I really only wanted to get your comments and now that you have floor plans and elevations, mostly of the band shell platform, because we had some preliminary pictures you wanted. There were some issues that came up when we were designing it, so we just want to know how to go forward so that we can complete our permit drawings and give you a GMP at a later date based on what you want.
Mr. Brown?
On your first, on your band shell,
Yes.
the one on the top, it's got a slant, a single slope. Would that slope be far enough back so when you do have bands in here and it starts raining like every 4th of July, they don't get wet?
It slopes towards the beach, towards the water.
Right.
He did that because there's some drainage issues existing along
Right.
the top of that retaining wall. And if you look at the bottom right, the plan east exterior elevation, you notice there's a 4-foot overhang. So
Okay.
that'll
That's
be on the
plenty.
beach side.
Okay.
And the reason he did that, that's one of the 2 options. I know the existing platform has a roof structure similar to the second option. And the pictures we saw, the renderings we saw before kind of match that. But there's that existing tree that, to our knowledge, you do not want to prune. So there's some height issues, thus they wanted the low end to not be in the front of the band structure where people are sitting looking in. You could get that higher, keep the back lower, thus the single slope.
And how much of an angle is that shed roof?
1 in 12, so it's a 15 inches of drop, 15 and a half.
The height of both roofs are about the same, though. I'm thinking about obstruction of view by people who might want to see the lake, not a roof.
That is true.
Looks like they're about 12 feet off the ground.
So then in that case, it's really just a matter of preference.
Right.
I'm not the roof fan.
Well, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents. I like the slope one. The top one.
Yeah, I think that's in line with the simple character of the pavilion. I like that one too,
Option 1.
option 1.
I think it's gonna take up more of the view because of the angle. At least the straighter one occupies that space. This is gonna be at an angle, so it's gonna take away more space.
But then on the bottom, how much of a slope does that have to run the water off? And will it have gutters? Will it need gutters?
We can add gutters, yes. They're both 1 in 12.
Are they both the same?
They're both the same slope. In the second one, when you go from your low eave, the peak in the middle will actually be lower because you're only traveling half the distance at 1 in 12 before you get to the highest point. The one on the top will be taller in the front, higher off the ground.
So
Yeah.
which one is gonna obstruct the view more?
If you keep the same low eave, neither. As Vice Mayor Hart was saying, if you have a 12 foot on your low end, the front end on the single slope will just be 15 and a half inches higher, over 15 and a half feet. If you have the hip, 12 foot on the front and back, it'll just be 7 and a half inches higher in the peak. So you can keep the low eave the same, and neither is 6 1/2 dozen the other in terms of your view. The single slope though gives you a better view of the band. But if that's not the major concern, then and it also keeps the water away from the front of the pavilion. You would drain it all on the beach behind them.
So the bathrooms this is gonna mimic the construction at the pavilion in terms of the way it's gonna look with the aluminum roof. Is that right, Ms. Mikowski?
Yes, so I believe that there's a drawing in here. Give me 1 second, because I think that we went out of order just a little bit.
We
Your
did not
next
plan
page.
to add hardy board siding to match. We can, if that's what you wish to do, but yes, we planned on removing the roof panels and
So
providing the same.
it will remain a brick structure, which we intended to remain a brick structure just for, oh my gosh, I can't think of it, for it to be stable. The hardy board, especially with that building, we would choose now to go to something that's going to be less likely or easier to
Destroy.
vandalize. Thank you. I'm trying to say it in a better way. So we'll remain with the brick structure. However, the outside with the railings will be added to mimic that of the beach, which is not projected on this one, and then the roof as well. And so it'll have the same color, the same feel as that. It's just the brick structure will be different.
Okay, that's cool. All right. Any other questions? So, under the pavilion on the opposite side of Geneva Jungle, that's just a concrete pad? Is that all we're adding there? Are we adding any railing on that one?
So there's going to be no railing. It's going to be a concrete pad, and then it's going to be cleaned up to mimic the look of the existing pavilion. There will not be any railings added or things of that nature. So we don't want to restrict the use or confine it to that area. That way, they've got the ability to run out and play and utilize that area.
Okay. Will it be an aluminum roof on the pavilion?
The plan was to leave it because the way it is, the pavilion structure, it's engineered for those roof panels. There's not enough structure for the same type of roof panel you have on your pavilion. they require structural members at smaller spacing. So if we replaced them, we would have to add plywood, metal decking, something. So if we leave it, we can paint it to match. It's a blue roof right now. We can paint it silver to look like the rest.
So
Likely would not.
it will have the appearance of mimicking the pavilion itself, but the structure itself is sturdy that we can leave it as is and just give it a facelift.
That's cool.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Can we go to the front page, on the pavilion, where we're adding the new restroom? We have a storage. Are we taking, where the restroom's gonna be, is that gonna take in some of the storage room that we have? Since we've got a
You want
new
me to explain
storage?
this?
So yes, if you look at that plan, the blue walls are your existing exterior walls. The new bathroom will require some removal of the cabinets. So to the extent it protrudes into your existing storage past the blue wall, yes, you lose that corner. However, the intent obviously being to close off around the generator so people don't hang over the generator. So you're gaining the 5 or 6 feet that is for extra storage. So you're adding more storage than you're taking away.
Okay.
Which is very much needed down at the
Yep.
pavilion as we're running out of storage for the furniture. This is one of the requests that I've added on just for discussions. Once we did renovate the pavilion, the use of a restroom inside that facility has been great, or the need for a restroom has been great. And then we've also noticed that as you come around on that deck, overlooking the generator is not the most appealing view that you want to see, so this will close that off, allow for a second point to exit the deck on the far side, which is going to be where our paddle board and kayak launch will be, but kind of protect the generator from anybody trying to get over the fence and things of that nature. We'll also add the restroom and additional storage.
I haven't noticed, but I know we've spoken in the past about using the old chain link fence as a safeguard for underneath the pavilion. Has that happened yet?
So there is fencing that's underneath the pavilion currently that's been put up by Public Works. So it's not the existing the old chain link fence. We went a different direction and used I don't want to say chicken fence, but farming fence, field fencing for that. It's just a structure that we were able to put it to the pavilion better. The chain link fence is going to be utilized elsewhere.
That was off subject, sorry. Any other questions? Vice Mayor Hart, Ms. Kelly?
So, Madam Mayor, if we can talk about cost for just a moment.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Somebody want to
Go
drop a
or-
number?
Sure. So we had previously, with our engagement letter for the design, we provided a budget. From our perspective, that's what we're designing towards. The intent at the time was we knew you would close the beach for the summer and the pricing wouldn't be any good. Material pricing has gone haywire since, and lumber prices are somewhat stabilizing, but the concern is still there that until we have a full permit set and a permit and we're ready to hire people, that we don't want to send it out for GMP yet. You have this budget, we will still design to it and stay within it. So the cost you have is the cost we're aiming for.
And so
Just a reminder of what that is?
I'll give you, yes, a reminder of that cost is $208,316, and it breaks down as follows. So you have the picnic pavilion renovations, which is closest to the kayak launch,
I know, we'll write it down.
of $42,209. The restroom, the rehab of the existing restrooms, plus taking down the existing ticket booth, removing that, is a combined $55,818.
Is this the one dated February 19th?
Yes, February 1st. Do I have,
No.
where am I, which one what am I missing? I apologize.
I didn't like that.
So, no, you didn't.
It's not that off.
And this is
but-
why, so the restroom building with the ticket booth is $76,282. I like mine better.
I like hers better too.
The stage with the platform with the canopy is $108,226. With a pre-construction services of 1%, that brings your total to $228,984. Now, prior to this conversation a couple months back, council had a conversation on whether or not you wanted to put the canopy over the or the stage. The stage itself needs to be restructured. That wood does need to be removed. We do need to pour a concrete slab. I believe, Oliver, if I remember correctly, the cost of that cover was about $15,000. So we were going, if we didn't want the cover on it, I think it was taking out $15,000 from that $108,000. But those were rough numbers. Now, with that being said, in addition to that, the addition of the restroom to the pavilion is $175,000.
As drawn, it potentially won't be that. When I was first asked about it, we were going to go into the main space, have to move an electrical panel, do a lot more work. The way it is drawn on the drawings you have, that electrical panel can stay. That was a significant portion of money, but it's still a lot of money. Lumber prices, the lion's share of that number is lumber, adding exterior walls and framing, and so it's quite a bit. It's quite a chunk of change for one bathroom.
It really is.
But it's very much needed as well. So it's based on the council's pros and cons and where your needs are at. Now, with that being said, I have updated council that we are looking at partnering with Clay County to utilize their grant writing services. That contract will be brought in front of you in August. The Hurricane Elsa kind of delayed a lot of work for a lot of people, so it was not able to be completed for you this month. However, so those are some things that we can, one, look at our ARPA funding. We do have CDs that we're capable of cashing in, utilized for CIP, and then going out for grants. And so it's going to be a matter of what your priorities are and a timeline in which you want to accomplish these. And this is by no means something that you need to make a decision on tonight.
Okay. I will see the restrooms as being probably the number one priority. Refurbishing that and getting those open so that we can reopen the pavilion for winter.
And we are working on getting those open. I'll talk about this later on, but we are working at getting some of that stuff replaced so we can open them for the time being.
Okay.
And if you're going to have a series of special events with music, it's really imperative that you have a roof over that stage. I've played there in the heat of the day, and it's not any fun. So we've had to bring in tents just to
Absolutely.
cover the band.
Is the pavilion restroom at 175 on top of the 228,000?
Yes.
Okay.
These are budgetary numbers. Our intent is to be high on those because when we GMP it, we want to give you money back, not ask for more.
Right.
I'm not going to go ahead and say it's significantly more. You never forget the first number we tell you. But it should be high, intentionally, at this point.
Okay, what's the pleasure? Do you want to study it and we'll come back to it, or you want to prioritize things tonight? What would you guys like to do?
As long as we're going to be applying for grants, I would just do the whole project at one time rather than stretching it out. That'd be my preference.
It's going to take time to get the grant money.
That's going to be a large ask, and we can chunk them out. And so that's something that I can speak to better once we have that contract in place with Clay County. So I would encourage that council absorbs the information, come back to me with any questions that you may have, and let's talk about this for a decision next month.
I go with that.
That's good.
Okay. All right. Take your drawings home with you.
So I would ask for clarification. Are we still proceeding on the 3 that we already had budgeted and tabling the extra 175, or are we just holding it all now until you get grant
I think
money?
we're talking about the entire project, the entire, all of it.
Okay.
Because I kind of feel like Steve, if you're going to do it, might as rip the Band-Aid off fast, right?
Yep.
Understood?
So,
Well, not only that, I think we're coming into a period of fairly rapid inflation, and if we can lock this in at today's dollars, I think we're much better off
Yep.
than spreading it out.
So let us get over the sticker shock, and then we'll make a decision.
All right, thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming along. Ms. Rakowski, bank accounts.
Yes, Madam Mayor, so we do have our ARPA funding that's going to be coming into place here hopefully within the next 30 days. That's the American Rescue Plan Act, to the tune of $645,000 split up for the next 2 years. It's been recommended, strongly suggested by both our auditor as well as our CPA, and then in conversations with other municipalities to open up a separate bank account for this. I need council's approval to show in the minutes that we can do that.
Is there a motion?
Separate account at a different institution or at the same institution?
It would be with the same institution. It would just be a separate bank account entirely.
Well, if the auditor recommends it, I think we should follow the recommendation.
I agree.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. Mr. Cornegay, Ms. Vivian Katz-James. A bunch of you presenting, one of both? Just
No, ma'am, just, I don't know what her plan is, but, I have one of my
Did you
own.
ask?
I apologize for not asking. Yeah, but no, good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Scott Cornegay, Executive Director at Lake Region Development Corporation. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with the phrase, beware of Greeks bearing gifts. Well, I come here tonight bearing gifts, but I am not Greek. I'm Irish, so you have nothing to fear. Okay? So what we are proposing tonight is we'd like to have your permission to install a floating swim platform and a floating fishing pier at the beach, Keystone Beach. I have a verbal agreement. I've acquired corporate funding for both pieces. The floating swim platform would be something like this. I'm not saying that this is the exact model that we'll purchase, but it'll be very, very similar, probably in the 10 by 12, 10 by 14 foot size. And the fishing pier would be probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 feet long with possibly a T dock at the end, as you see right there.
Cool.
So the proposed location for the swim platform would be roughly in the center of the designated swim area, 10 to 15 feet from the outer boundary. And the proposed location for the fishing pier would be to the south of the spillway, about halfway between the spillway and the property line. So with your permission, we will move forward with the purchase and installation of these two pieces.
I think what you're proposing with the swim dock is to put that roughly where the original dock was back when the pavilion was built.
Based upon the old photos, yeah.
And if there's some way you could make it kind of look like that, I think it'd
Right.
be kind of cool.
Certainly.
Also, on the T-Dock, will that be as close as possible to the paddleboard kiosk? It's gonna be on the opposite
No,
side?
to be on the opposite side.
Opposite side.
Yeah, to keep, I think that was
You
the
don't want
intent, was to,
the fishing lines out there when they're.
Okay.
right.
To keep fishing lines out of the swimming area and out of the kayak
Mr.
launch
Commando
area.
would prefer that we not hook anybody.
Even though they're gonna be swinging really hard.
Yeah.
So the pleasure, do you need a motion or just consent? Is there majority consent here?
I think the more the merrier we do down there, the better off we
And I have to tell you, I was down with the fireworks on 4th of July, I know Lynn was too, and it was amazing how many boats can now come through into Keystone Beach because that vegetation has been taken out, and enjoys people in the kayaks, seeing people in the kayaks down there on 4th of July was really wonderful. So I think we're bringing people back, and that's really awesome. So it'll be another step in the right direction.
Be a good way to greet the new water too.
Right, and that's why we chose the floating variety, that way we can move and adjust and as the water comes up.
Very good.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Do you have what you need, Madam Manager?
Yes.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go
All
fishing.
right, so the next one is, I had a request from a local flower shop owner to, on behalf of someone in our community, want to plant a tree on city property as a dedication to somebody, a family member who passed. And she wanted me to bring it before you and ask if that's an okay idea.
put it?
In one of our parks or the cemetery?
I do have an alternate plan suggestion, because on top of that, we have a request that I've been asked to approach council with as far as renaming a street for an individual's husband who has recently passed away. And they wanted to identify a street and rename it on behalf of her husband. So with that being said, these requests come in more often than what you would think, as far as trying to put in something that to dedicate to an individual or another. With that being said, I went through some magazines today as we're continuing, or we're finishing up our streetscape project, and we'll be moving those hot black benches into the shade back here behind City Hall and replacing them with new benches that don't burn you when you sit down. With that being said, through the vendor, there are plaques that are available to purchase in memory of, and so we can do a cost share option.
Can we put it around a tree?
Well, it would be downtown or within our parks, and so it would be first come, first serve of the location. Now, we are going to choose location of the benches, and so they can choose what bench that they want to dedicate.
We actually, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And there would be a plaque on the back of it in memory of, you see them as in different towns and whatever else. My concern, as much as the trees are picking out their own benches, we do have a bench program available at the cemetery to where if you do buy a lot, you can place a bench there in memory of your loved one. Is that we are quickly running out of room at the park across the street, and that we're going to have to be very careful on what types of trees and where we put them within the cemetery, because as we found, as they planted trees several years ago, they're now impeding the surrounding sites. And so we're going to have to work closely with our engineer a little bit more than what we have on where those trees will be located and how we mitigate within our cemetery for them, because that does take away a lot of our spaces and what we're capable of selling with the root system.
Well, as with the space, you're gonna run out of space on benches and whatever. Could we think about an idea that would allow one tree to be dedicated to a person by creating a plaque and associating that plaque with that tree?
An existing tree?
Yeah. That way you won't be adding to.
The only issue is, it's just like, the one that's out here in front was dedicated to a certain person, and
It's not moving.
It's not moving,
That's right.
because, but the only problem with that tree is it has grown up and it impedes the viewing of the camera that's there. So if we say we do something like that and we pick a tree for somebody and we have to take it down for something, I mean, either it gets destroyed, it gets hit, it gets whatever, but we have to take it down. How are we going to deal with that?
Good question. I don't know.
I will say on benches, back probably, 6 years ago, we had a lady that had passed away, and her family put a bench out here in the park, paid for it and everything, put the plaque on it. It's sitting right out here. So I like the idea of the benches.
That
more.
was a design picked out by the city.
Right, the city designed, or, yeah, you're right.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. Then when we run out of benches, we just say, we don't have any more room for you.
Would there be a spot to plant one memory oak, a live oak, and then have plaques on the tree itself that could be removed and, as it grows, and then just sell the plaques with the space or whatever? Just have one tree? Because I see a precedent problem, if we do it for one person this week, and I want to do it next week for my Aunt Tilly, where are we going to put it?
That's
yeah.
and with what you're talking about as far as the benches go, yes, eventually, regardless on which way it goes, we're going to end up running out of space, but we do have ample picnic tables that are going to have to be redone, and so it could be a fantastic opportunity to look at that avenue as well, or a multi-plaque tree. I don't know how individuals feel about doing something like that. That was just an alternative. My fear is that we're going to end up running out of space, or have a lot of people who come in with, they want to plant a tree or a specific type of tree, things of that nature.
Okay. I'm good with a plaque. That's fine with me. But I do need you to call that person back and let her
Yep.
know.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you want a motion, Ms. Lynn, on that? Do you need a motion or just?
I don't think so because we'll come back next month with designs. That way we can move this program forward.
Okay, awesome. All right, moving on to council comments. We'll start with Vice Mayor Hart.
I have a couple. First of all, shout out to Lynn for at least two things that I know she did well beyond the call of duty. One was I wasn't aware you were out there with a chainsaw and the crew cutting up a tree on Dove Street, was it? Yeah, I saw that, so that was great. And also you helped a lot with the Kiwanis Parade, getting all the tables and everything lined up. I'd like to also kind of raise a concern I have. I think this is part of the agenda. It has to do with what we voted on concerning the food truck. And I've looked at the ordinances, and they're very, very loose. I think at a minimum, I think we need to start tightening these up. For example, under mobile food vending, sub B, I'll just read it short. Mobile food vendors may be located on a lot having at least 43,559 square feet of area that contain a principal building or use. I don't know what a principal building or use is, so I think we should define that. If it's a parking lot, would define it, give an example, and has the minimum required parking as set forth in section, so that's pretty simple. But it goes on to say one mobile food vendor is permitted per lot unless approved by council or by special event. Well, I think we did that tonight. But I think we need to define, and I can't find a definition of special event. It's probably in there somewhere. But I think we ought to have at least some standards as to how we're going to approve more than one food vendor per lot. Because my reading of that is, unless we approve more than one, we just have one per lot, and that's it. So I think that ordinance needs to be addressed. Also, there's a provision that the staff shall prepare a statement of findings concerning the application's compliance. This has to do with regulatory permits. I think you complied with that, that's my opinion anyway, by giving us an overview, so I think we're set. But those are the kind of things to be addressed, and at some point, I would like to go back and revisit the lot size. I know, Karen, that you feel otherwise, and probably other council people do, but I would at least like to keep that on the agenda just as a placeholder, because I think that the food vendors are going to take off, and when the water comes in and we have music, I think we need to be looking towards expanding this type of operation rather than limiting it to just one location. That's my opinion. So my request is just to keep it on the agenda. I'm not making any motion, just so it doesn't get forgotten.
Ms. Hill? Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown?
Okay. I'm gonna jump on.
He's gonna make up for all of those
Yes,
no's,
yep.
okay, y'all?
Sit back and get your popcorn. We've, I read a letter that was certified to the council by Mr. Hatch, and I took the opportunity to go sit down with him since I was on the planning and zoning or whatever that was. We were doing all the ordinances and stuff. In my business, I know Gainesville has food trucks all over the doggone place in different little lots and stuff like that. I also took the opportunity, knowing that this was probably going to come up sooner or later again. And I went to the revival, the tent revival that they had their property. There was probably 80 to 100 people there, and it was very well secured. Parking wasn't an issue, and I'm the one that voted against having it there. But I think maybe, and seeing the 4th of July, what was going on there, it was very well handled, professionally and everything. And I think maybe we do need to revisit that. I personally, I will add, I don't want to see food trucks up and down Lawrence Boulevard in parking spots. But if you are within the property, like Vice Mayor addressed, I would be willing to relook at it.
I think that makes logical sense. If you look at Mr. Hatch's letter, he does make, I think, a valid point about you're dealing with at the most 1.37 acres, and you divide that by 4, you're ending up with a lot less than 1 acre per unit. To me, that isn't logical. That doesn't hang together with our current ordinance. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I think we need to build a little more flexibility into that, especially as far as the acreage is concerned. That's my thinking. But obviously, we can't have postage stamp plots. It's got to be a reasonably large lot. And an acre, acre and a half is a pretty good piece of dirt. If you're only going to have 1 truck or 2 trucks.
And I'll throw it out that I would be against voting on an event at his property when the city is doing the same thing on our property.
Oh, we can't be competing
We
against
can't,
each
I don't want anything like that.
No, that's right.
My other thing was, we got an email from Mr. Boone over the weekend concerning drainage. Talked to him this afternoon, and I explained that area is low where he lives, has been ever since I can remember. And he still says that, and I think we had this conversation a couple years ago when he came to us, about he feels like when they put that retention pond in there, and I'm thinking the one right at Satsuma and Point View is what the drainage that he's talking about is higher. And when I went by there yesterday, I drove up next to the drainage right in front of his house, and I don't know how long it takes water to leave, but there's still quite a bit of water in that drain ditch. But with us having a new engineering firm, if they can look at something like that to see, I mean, that would be up to the city manager to look at that and see if we do have a problem there. I mean, that retention pond has been there since, gosh, the late 80s, early 90s, probably the early 90s.
As I recall, the engineer said that it was built well enough for at least up to a 100-year storm.
So that was, if you remember correctly, when Michael Baker came up to speak on that and did their testing, did their evaluations on it, was our last significant hurricane, the weather, the rain that has brought in. And so we haven't had a problem until we've had significant hurricane weather again. And that was really what Michael Baker brought to the council, is that yes, it's going to retain water. There's going to be an issue there. However, the cost of it to try to pass this water on a timely manner throughout the hurricanes. The only time that we have this issue is when we have significant storms, like the past hurricane, I think it was Irma, that we had this issue, and then again with Elsa, with the amount of rain that Elsa brought in. However, if it is the will of the council, I'll forward all that information, and we can start now understand where we are on an hourly rate with our engineer, but I can have him look at this. Now, one of the conversations that I've had with Mr. Richard in anticipation of this contract is going to be stormwater management, and so that's something that could possibly be looked at as overall with the city, as opposed to just signaling this specific area out.
And there is an issue that was brought to my attention by a neighbor of mine, Mr. Chapman, and I brought
Yes,
it to
yep.
your attention, that this is a drain that actually goes into what used to be Lake Brooklyn. And I guess when Wendy's was built, somehow it was changed, and now it's just spewing out dirt. And I think that would be, especially when the water's going to come in, and we're going to spend all this money to have it be nice and clear. We don't want to have.
So as an
Sludge.
overall, then maybe look at the stormwater for the city and runoff, as opposed to just doing signaling out specific areas.
Another significant flooding area is that corner at Pecan and what's right there by the KRA field.
Field Street, oh yeah.
Field Street, it floods too.
They still have their sandbags from the last time it flooded.
Yeah, so that's also an area, and I think Michael Baker looked at that one as well, if I
Yes.
recall.
And again, it floods, but it floods when we have significant weather. And so there's some water that comes in, but it is a significant weather event. And so those are things that we can look at with our engineer as we go through our right-of-way evaluation as well.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Is that it, Mr. Brown?
That's it.
All right. I did want to go over and thank some people. This has been a really busy month for me personally and for the city. It started with Keystone Safety Net Alliance, and as you've heard tonight, we impact Clay. There are significant impacts happening in our community and even down here in Keystone with the work we're doing. I attended an AMI luncheon, which is a program to the Clay County School Districts, which is equal to PACE Center for Girls. They do work for at-risk males in the county, and we have several who come from Keystone Heights and go up to Orange Park to attend that and graduate from that program, and graduation was really, really wonderful. The Friends of Keystone Heights High School, we secured $7,500, and we gave it to the band through a Clay Electric Roundup grant, which is really wonderful. If you saw the instruments kids have to play with down here in Keystone, it would really make you sad because they're sad. They're just bad.
Some are being held together with chewing gum and baling wire. Seriously,
Yes.
they're pretty rough.
And Steve says that it's gotta be true. So, I've done quite a bit of work with Mission of the Dirt Road this month and enjoyed the food truck event, jumping puddles in the rain, that was fun. Attended a retreat for women leaders at Mission of the Dirt Road, enjoyed time at the street dance, and the Winn-Dixie ribbon cutting. Have we talked about Winn-Dixie tonight? We haven't said anything about Winn-Dixie, so we'll throw Winn-Dixie in there. Kiwanis Parade of Fireworks was fantastic, and then I think every year this event is the most rewarding, and it's the back to school event for students that are served at community church and actually provided by the entire community. I know Mr. Cornegay was there one day, and sponsored by Rotary Club, part of it, and it really is heartwarming to have a child come in and really feel the joy of being able to go and get stuff, new stuff, brand new shoes. And this year, there was a private school down in Punta Gorda who found community church, and they donated 3 pairs of Sperry's. They had decided to change their dress code, and so they looked for some place for these shoes to go, and it ended up in Keystone Heights. And so if a student wanted a pair of Sperry's, they got a pair of tennis shoes and a pair of Sperry's, and gently used clothes and a backpack and school supplies. And we served about 10 or 19 kids. And so that's a significant impact, that we're making in our community. So that was really heartwarming. And that's it for me. I'll turn it over to Ms. Rakowski.
I do have a couple items, Madam Mayor. So an update on the cemetery. We have been postponed about 2 weeks. There is something that was not built correctly with the framing of the ossuarium, and so that got sent back. It's now in powder coating phase, the new one, and we're expected to schedule delivery next week for the following week. The trailhead update, everything is complete except for the drinking fountain, which is on back order, and we're hoping to get that soon. However, they will not even give us a delivery date on the drinking fountain. Bless you. They come in threes. The Downtown Streetscape, there will be a walk through between Consor and FDOT to make sure that they've done the plans. We will be present on that. There's a couple items on our checklist that we want to make sure that they get complete. They've started over some junction boxes and some things that needs to be taken care of, but outside of that, our construction is done. FDOT is out of here, and then we can move forward with our streetscape plan, so I'm very excited to have that announcement. I've been working with the airport to bring water sewers and a generator, or much needed generators. We've been going back and forth with their engineering firm that they're going to bring a scope and fee. Hopefully next week, we'll be meeting with the county managers to look at some cost sharing, and then that'll be brought in front of council. Arp Funding, so the state has done a 30-day extension. We're hoping to see our first part of our ARPA funding at the end of, or sometime in August is our new scheduled date. We'll go to the bank tomorrow or Wednesday to open up a new account so that we can put it in there when we do receive it. Again, just a reminder that's going to be brought to us in two different pots, the first half and then the second half, roughly about a year apart, and we have 5 years to spend that money. They haven't released the do's and don'ts of that yet, so we're awaiting those on what our rules are going to be and how we are capable of spending this money. Vegetation Madam Mayor mentioned vegetation within the lake. I do want to let you know that we're going to end up seeing more clear water as council did move forward with the contract with Southern Vegetation. So if you'll notice, some of those lily pads are dying off, and then he's going to come back and do a second spray. So we're moving forward in that, and it's very exciting. And then the last but not least is, I'm sure that all of you have heard and received emails regarding the Airbnbs that are in the area. I just wanted to kind of put this on your radar, let you know that I'm working with Mr. Commando as well as code enforcement so that we can move through this strategically without doing wrong by Florida statutes and as well as our code of ordinances. So in dealing with an Airbnb, it does get sticky, it does get tricky. Our code enforcement has been in contact with the neighbors that are concerned with and address some of their concern, have been advised that, you know, when you do see something that may be a little bit wrong, just like anywhere within the city, see it, say it. The sheriff's office cannot be, or does not know unless they're told, and they can look into it.
Mr. Commando.
I just wanted to congratulate the council, as I'm sure you already know. Your intervention obviously scared the other participants in the Water Management District litigation because they moved towards settlement as soon as you decided to intervene. So. But that was a bold move, and actually, joking aside, the nice thing about that is there were other local governments, cities, towns that were asked to participate who decided to kind of quietly step back, and you did take a leadership position, and it was very well noted by the district and everyone in your community. So again, congratulations.
And she's here, so I'm gonna put her on the spot. Miss Vivian, you have anything you wanna share with us?
I want to thank you all for basically stepping up to the plate and participating in the challenge and supporting the district. It's most unusual for Solo to actually be in favor of something the district has done. In my 12 years of this, I think this is the first time. But I will say at the last board meeting, it was noted by Senator Bradley that we all participated, and it was much appreciated. And so I think we've got some attaboys, and what we have needed for a very long time is for all of us to kind of stand together, shoulder to shoulder, and get this thing moving. Water's coming, and we've got a lot of work to do, but I'm very excited, and thank you for participating in that. Thank you.
That's on the Water District's agenda for tomorrow. I read part of that, and it looks like they've settled the dollar amounts.
Yes.
And nothing else has changed, as far as I know, as far as levels.
Right. Nothing has changed. It was just a matter of dollars and cents, and I think, quite frankly, I think the utilities were surprised that everybody stood up, and they started backing down. I mean, they fought hard. You know, I wasn't in the room, in the negotiating room, but it all kind of rolled around to the last minute. But I think everybody's satisfied now. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Anything else for the good of the order?
Madam, I do have one more comment. I do want to thank our staff. We have a fantastic staff here. So through the hurricane, the preparation of the hurricane, managing early into the hours and then throughout the day, and then again calling out for both the 4th of July and the tree being down, our staff was very responsive and very ready to meet that.
Yes, thank you all. You guys have done a fantastic job. See none?